My name is Kyle Doyle. I'm an admissions counselor here at Rochester. I do a bunch of different things, but one of my main things is that I work with undergraduate research and a bunch of our grant programs here on campus. So that's why I'm here leading the session, and I'm joined by 5 of our wonderful students and one of my coworkers who's moderating the chat. So I guess beyond that, real quick, I'm also a graduate of the university. If anyone has any questions for me specifically, I majored in linguistics, and I also did research in a psycholinguistics lab on campus a number of years ago, but I can speak to that at any point if someone has a question. But I think we'll start roundtable with just having everyone introduce themselves, where they're from, who they are, what they're majoring in, and just a tiny little blurb. We'll get more into it in a minute about what their research has been on campus. So I don't know, let's start with Devin.
Hey guys, I'm a senior from Williamsport, Pennsylvania, studying business and entrepreneurship and minoring in history. A little bit about the research I've done. I've done research both in social science and humanities. My first research was sophomore year as part of a class, and it turned into a little something more. And then the second research I did was more business oriented, and I took that initiative myself and used the faculty to help me publish that.
All right, I'll go. I was waiting. Okay. So hi, everyone. My name is Kimmy. I am a senior. I'm studying engineering sciences. I am originally from Dhaka, Bangladesh, but I currently live in New York City. I have done research twice. For sophomore year, I did research for the humanities sector through the English department, and that was more about interaction with the Rochester community. And my second research that I'm still continuing on is with a medical device, and we can talk more about that later in our chat today.
I guess I can go. Hi, I'm Abby. I'm a sophomore from Queensbury, New York. I'm a double major in English and psychology, and the research that I've done is through a first-year research program called the Meliora Scholars Program, and it's more on the humanistic side of things.
Hi everyone, my name is Maria and I'm a sophomore international student from Greece. So I'm studying mechanical engineering, and my research is on locomotion on granular surfaces, and I'm also going to be doing a summer remote research on oceanography.
Ara, you're muted.
Yeah. Hello everyone, my name is Ara. I'm an international student from Paraguay, South America. I'm a senior majoring in international relations, and since my first year, I've been doing research on military and civic conflict in Latin America.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. Let's see, looks like we're up to a few more participants now. Yeah, so let's go around, and I guess kind of the starting point, and this is something that we always talk about, is that research is very accessible on campus. We have about 80% of our students who will end up doing research at some point in time during their undergraduate career, be it individually with a professor, as part of a lab, so on and so forth. And for a lot of students, that can start as early as freshman year. So I guess kind of going around, can you each talk a little bit about your research experiences and how you got involved initially and how that came about?
Yeah, so for me, research, I never thought that I was someone who's interested in research, and I thought I was going to go straight to industry. But then because so many people around me were doing research, I wanted to see what it would feel like. So like I mentioned, I started research sophomore year, and that I got through one of my English professors. I took a class called Intro to Debate, and they were looking for people to help them or organize an event that they ultimately wanted to get results out of. So I was able to take part in that. But more for the natural science aspect, I wanted to get involved with medical device research as I started out as a biomedical engineering major. So I emailed my advisor, emailed a lot of my friends, kind of reached out to a lot of my network people, and one of them responded back saying that they were looking for a research assistant, and that's how I've heard, that's how I started to get involved with research. So that was sort of how my research experience started, I guess.
For me, I heard about the Melior Scholars Program through a friend. So for those of you who don't know what that is, the Melior Scholars Program is a humanities-based research program that's you apply for during your first year. And you can get a $3,000 grant to do basically whatever humanities research you want. And as someone who like has a deep passion for the humanities, like there's not really a huge emphasis on humanities research in a lot of universities. So I think that it was really cool that we have a program like specifically devoted to humanities research. And so I applied spring semester during my freshman year and I got accepted. And now I've just been starting my own independent research. The program itself is really nice because you get a mentor and they're kind of like your main point of contact. And then we'll have like meetings every like couple of months to kind of like get all of the Melior scholars together. And we'll all attend like different like humanities centered events on campus together throughout the semester. So it's like a really nice collective program and you're like not alone when you're doing your research. You're like actively like with a community of people who are also doing their own independent research. So it's nice to kind of collaborate and have that experience.
So as Kimmy said, I also came here thinking I want to focus on going into the industry, but then after talking with a few students from other classes, I realized I wanted to try that as well. So I just emailed, I went to the mechanical engineering website and found the websites of the professors, checked their research, and then I just emailed the ones I thought I would be interested the most in, and the ones I thought I would be a good addition in their team. And that's how I ended up getting my first research experience. Now, as far as the summer experience is concerned, I knew a person, a student that had worked for that specific professor the previous summer, and I really liked the research. So I just emailed them and went to see them, and I explained why I would love to work with them. So that's how I got that too.
I guess I can go. Well, before I came to U of R, I had no clue what doing research meant. And I had that misconception that research was just for STEM students, for natural science majors. But then in my first year, I went a lot to office hours, and my TA told me about her project and if I wanted to be part of her group of research assistants. And I immediately said yes. And then she taught me all the data analysis tools. So I wasn't really alone in the process of learning how to do research. And it became a really good opportunity for me to understand what are some of the ways I can continuously use research in my career in the future. Like I want to go into foreign service in the future, and doing research as a U of R made me realize that it can be really useful, not just for publications in academia, but actually for decision making in business, in politics, and more.
Yeah, that's what Ara said. It's exactly right. You'd think, wow, this is a school with a lot of STEM students at it, and I came in doing optical engineering. Of course, we had pre-labs, we had labs that we had to do with our major, and then halfway through my time here, I switched to a business major. So I went from the lab setting to, okay, not really any research at all. But my sophomore year, I was one of my history classes was an upper level writing class. And one of the, I guess, the paper at the end of it is a research paper on something very specific, very niche. And after that, I figured, I thought I'd written a really good paper, went to my professor, and he goes, yes, I think we could send this to a little local journal that you could get it published in. And it did. And so right there, I was like, got super excited and got this, this buzz of wanting to publish more and do more research. And I was like, well, now I'm in business and I can't. And all my professors I'm talking to in office hours, they're like, you absolutely can. Just come up with a good question, come up with something that relates to you, your life, make a crossroad in some way. And this last year, I was sitting in a business course thinking, wow, this professor is really saying things that resonate with me, but I have this question. Went to him in an office hours. He turned to me, he goes, Marty, we're a research institute. I want you to do some research and come back to me next week and hopefully we can answer this question together. So I did that. went away. And then after talking to him, talked to a few other people, it just got rolling. And it ended up in about 9 months of work being a book that was picked up by a publisher and published. And the school helped fund a lot of the editors' costs. Yeah, thank you very much. But that was, to me, like, and I know we'll go more into it later, but just it opened a network of people that I now am connected to. It built some credibility around myself going into the workforce. And also it was just like, wow, I can do things. Like 2% of people who start books finish them. Like I felt so empowered by that. So, and all because of, a professor saying, do some research.
Cool. So we have some questions rolling in. I actually want to address that specific question though myself, because I did do undergraduate research and I was kind of in the same boat as you, Devin, where I started initially, and I actually originally had two majors. I was linguistics and biology, but ultimately ended up pursuing linguistics. And I kind of stumbled into my research experience. I was sitting in a class the first week of my senior year, and a graduate student from the Brain and Cognitive Sciences department walked into our phonology class and said, "Hey, I'm looking for a student to do a bunch of coding for me, like phonological coding, and I'm willing to pay them." So just to give you an idea, I think a lot of times I get this question from folks who know things about other research institutions, whether or not undergraduate students compete with graduate students. My response is, in fact, not only do you rarely compete with graduate students for positions, sometimes you end up working for them. So I was super lucky in that way. So to answer at least one of these questions out here, yes, plenty of students do get paid. We'll get into funding a little bit in a minute. But yeah, so I guess kind of moving on from there, I do, just a quick show of hands, another question that came in. How many of you did your research, and a few of you already mentioned this already, but how many of you did your research during the summer, or at some point your research spread into the summer? Okay. Nice, and myself as well. So a lot of students do stick around on campus at some point of time during one of their summers between first year's sophomore year, junior, senior year at some point in time. And that kind of brings me back around to talk a little bit about funding. So for some of you, some of you got paid, some of you had grant funding. Does anyone want to talk, and not everyone has to, but does anyone want to talk about, ways in which they were able to fund their research on campus, where that funding came from?
So for me, I personally didn't have, so because I was doing a summer job while I was doing my research on campus, I didn't have to request money from my research experience. But during tours, I usually say this: there are 3 ways you can get credit for your there are ways, so you get paid for your research, or you can get credit for them, or they're usually unpaid, but and mine was unpaid research. And but because of my research, I'm getting published soon, hopefully. So that was what that was what I felt like was my credit, or given that hopefully I'll be in a scientific journal, so that was what was more important for me. But my project was getting funding from outside sources, my project as a whole. So it was never the burden was never on me, I guess is how I would say it.
So for the first year, I did research with this PhD student from the political science department. She got an award, she got a grant for that full year, and we didn't get to finish the entire project, and she knew that we wouldn't be able to finish. So at the end of that period of time, she proposed me, look, if you want to continue doing that would be great, and you can get credit, instead of taking a class. So I took that as an option, and I'm actually right now in another project for credits instead of taking a class now in my senior year. So definitely, there's a wide variety of options. You can do it to get paid, you can do it for credits, and there might be also opportunities for short-term projects where you just want to do it because you want to get involved. So again, if you want to do your own research, there's a topic that nobody, there isn't a professor at UR who's covering that, and you have this idea like Devin did, you can definitely find more resources, and I think we're going to discuss that later in the panel. There's a lot of opportunities at UR to have your own research project.
For me, like I mentioned before, my funding comes through the Humanities Center, so I didn't really have to worry about that. But a lot of people in my program, actually, I haven't done this yet, and probably should get on it, but they set up an independent study with a professor to help like guide them through their independent research and their project, and they get credit for that. One of my friends, he's using his grant money to study Shakespeare and the Fourth Wall and plays and performance practice and how that's kind of changed over time. So he used his money to go on this program called Theater in England, and he studied there. And then with that professor, he set up an independent study for like the rest of his college career. He's going to be a senior next year. And so you can also like get credit for the research that you're also getting funding for, which is really unique and interesting. And it is a nice way to build a close relationship with a professor as well.
For me, the funding comes from the Hughes School of Engineering, but there's also a lot of other opportunities for funding, especially for summer, such as the Discover Grant or RIG, which is another program here at the school. So you can use any of these, or if you develop some relationship with your professor, they can also hire you as their own undergraduate researcher, and they can pay you from their own grant.
Cool. I was just going to add real quick. So a little bit on RIG, the Research and Innovation Grant, or for those of you interested in humanities, the Humanities Research and Innovation Grant. Probably there's a number of you out there who've received it. So congratulations on that. It's just a grant that we give out to students, prospective students who we hope will be coming to Rochester in the fall to see, you know, we think that you probably have a pretty high likelihood of doing research on campus and think you'd benefit from that. It also can be used for other types of experiential learning. Students use the RIG grant, and I'll maybe let Ara talk a little bit about it because I know she has one and what she's used the funding for. But for a lot of different things, everything from travel and study abroad to conferences, so on and so forth. The Discover grant is essentially the sister grant to RIG. It's a grant that does basically the same things, but you apply for once you're a student on campus. I'd say we could probably answer a few questions about RIG if a few students have them, but also feel free to email me later. I'm the one who sent you the email in the first place, so feel free to send that my way after the chat if you have any specific questions about it. Moving on from that, and something that I think Abbi mentioned in there, or maybe it was someone else, about kind of building relationships with professors. And also, I'm going to tie this in with another question about time management. So, you know, someone was asking basically, do professors dictate how much time you spend in the lab? Are they demanding that you come in for 20 hours? Or how does that all work? And how do you balance research not only with what your professor wants, but also with your classes? And the second part of that is, you know, how has your research experience helped build relationships with the professors that you've had?
For me, research, so no, my professor never demanded that I spend 20 hours in the lab or anything like that. And I don't think any professor actually like requires that, because our professors and anyone who we're doing research under are aware that we're students first, and we all take like a normal course load, so they understand how like our schedules work. So for me, my work was usually on the weekends because I was usually on across our River campus in the medical center. And that was when I was able to take out the biggest chunk of my time as it was. So I used to go over on the weekends, specifically on Saturdays, and I would spend my time there. Obviously, there would usually be some work, for example, like data collection or like updating data sheets that I would do during my free time, because that's how just my schedule would work out. And our professors are generally very understanding. As for how I built my relationship, once you've worked with someone who's been training you for a certain amount of time, they understand your work pattern, they understand what works and how can they make your journey and your research experience better. And I think that's how like a lot of professors interact with a lot of their research assistants. So that was very important to me. And 4 years down the road, I think that has helped me build a professional relationship where if I need advice, I'm able to go and ask him for advice. Or if I need someone to write my recommendation letters, someone as a reference, I think that was definitely something that was really helpful. So that's how my like experience with my mentor or my supervisor has been.
like I mentioned before, most of my research is independent, but I am really fortunate in which I have a mentor to kind of guide me. So my mentor is actually the graduate head of the Department of English Studies. And so, like I said, as part of my program, in my research program, that I have to attend like a certain number of humanities events per semester. So for one of them, we all decided to go, my mentor group all decided to go together. It's me and 3 other students. But afterwards, we went to my mentor's house, and she like made us dinner, and we all got to sit and like talk and discuss about the event that we had just seen together and the talk that we witnessed, and then also just about our projects and like different ideas and like how she could best support us in our independent research and things like setting up an independent study, just to kind of keep you on track and give you more of an established schedule, because you're on your own and you can kind of, it's nice in the sense that you can really just like tailor your research to your schedule. So if you are taking a heavier semester, then maybe you can do a little bit less research. But if you have a lighter semester, you can like delve more into what you're working on. So it's nice in that way. But also, I think having something like an independent study along with it really just gives you a routine and kind of make sure that you're checking in and like making deadlines and like the deadlines that you set for yourself, you know. Because it is very easy to kind of procrastinate if like things get particularly hectic. But I think definitely like having a mentor is like super important, and it kind of like keeps you honest and keeps you going, and they're just a really great resource to have as well if you're like having any difficulties or anything like that, and they are well connected within the university and also outside of the university and can get you some like resources that you probably couldn't get on your own.
For me, during my semester research, my professor didn't have any specific requirements in terms of the hours I had to go to the lab, but we sat together and discussed, and we figured out that 8 should be enough according to my schedule. However, during summer research, depending on what program funds your research, you might have specific hours of research that you have to complete.
So for the first year when I was paid to do research, I invested about 6 hours a week. But afterwards, when I decided to do it as an independent study for credit, I spent the same amount of time I'll spend for another class. Let's say, touching base once in a while with a PhD student, and at the same time, I like kind of manage how much time I want to invest every other week, depending on how big or how heavy is the load of work that I have to do or complete. But I'll definitely say that it also depends on the amount of credits you want to take. I know people who do research just for 2 credits, right? So it will be less time a week. And in my case, it's for 3 credits. So I also calculate how much time I would invest in homework if I was taking a class. So it wouldn't be just doing the research, but also like for 4 hours a week or 6 hours a week. But I'll put more time. I'll say 10 hours a week, since it's like a class for me right now. So it depends if you're getting paid or you're doing it as an independent study. And about building relationships, I am so thankful that I had this opportunity, because Karen, who wrote my letter of recommendation for the job that I just got at Emory as a research assistant for after graduation, she like got to know me because of how much time I spent talking to her. She saw me growing from 0, so I really relate to what Kimmy said. The professor or the researcher gets to see you growing, not just in tools, but also in your skills as a people person, as a connector. And the way you manage the information you have to use for the research project. So definitely for letters of recommendation, and just in general to have a mentor, it's really nice to have someone who you can ask for advice or ask their point of view about certain opportunities you want to have in the future for your career.
Yeah, it is weird to think of a professor as a mentor in a way, but that's exactly right. And it's so nice to have that relationship and to build that relationship. And all it takes is an office hours meeting or an email to get it started. It's really, really easy. And then with that, every one of our professors essentially is also doing research. So they know how it works. They've probably published tons of stuff already. So it's just it's like a crash course, boom, right there, just the relationship you have with them. In terms of classes and balancing your time, I would say my independent study research was more, and it's not an official independent study, but my own research was, it helped me balance my schedule more, because I knew, oh, I really can't wait to do this part today or do this, but I have to get that schoolwork done first. Or so it's really good for that. And I think that was the hardest semester I was taking, was during the time I was doing my research, and I don't think I could have done it as well without also doing research.
Awesome, cool. I just want to answer a few questions, broad questions that have come across. We're getting a lot of folks asking about specifically their major interests and what research happens in it. Unfortunately, we just don't have the time to go into each and every one of them, but I do have a suggestion, and I think all of our panelists will agree with me. If you want to get a good feel about what type of research is happening on campus, as I think everyone just stressed, all of these professors, or most of these professors on campus, have students working with them, undergraduate students working with them. So going into any one of the department pages and looking at the publications and the types of research that those professors are doing or that their labs are doing is a great way to find out the types of research on campus that are happening. I've also seen a couple questions come through about the medical center, and maybe Kimmy wants to talk a little bit about that because her research has been over there. But just know that there is a ton of opportunities to go to the medical center to both do research, but also get clinical and shadowing experiences. It is something that is very common for students, not just in biology with a straight through pre-med, pre-MD route, but also everything from public health to psychology to neuroscience and brain imaging to even to the humanities and looking at anything from how patient interactions and psychology and so on and so forth work. There's a lot of different interconnections with that. I also saw a quick question just from my own perspective with Take 5. Yes, you can do research during your Take 5 year, but Kimmy, do you want to say just a tiny bit about, like, or anyone who maybe has friends that do research in the medical center, about what that's like and if it's any different than, research on the main campus? For those who don't know, the medical center is right across the street. It's a quick 10 to 15 minute walk away from most places on campus. But yeah, I'll turn it over to Kimmy for that one.
So the research opportunities in medical center are aplenty. There's way too many sometimes, I feel like. But so at this point, I do like to talk about the undergraduate research placement program through the undergraduate research office. So basically the program allows you to submit a Google form where you can put in information, your interest, and they actually have options there. Like, do you want to clinically shadow a professor, a doctor in the medical center, or do you want to just do research? And through that program, they will reach out to you and they will connect you to professors who are still hiring at that point. Obviously, it's a little bit more complex than how I explained it, but it's a really good program, and I came across it, I believe, my junior year, and communicating with them really helped me polish my application when I was trying to reach out to these professors. So that was really helpful, and the program it really helps to get that kind of contact and meet these kind of different professors. There are a variety of research that happens in the medical center, like Kyle mentioned. I personally worked in a lab, but I know a lot of my friends who worked in the medical center through the EDRA program, which is the Emergency Department Research Assistant. It is competitive, I believe, but it is also just because you're interacting with patients who are coming into the emergency department. So that process is a little bit more rigorous, but it's still an option for people who are interested in that. So yeah, and I don't think that medical center research is very specific to just biology or neuroscience major. I'm a HAGM student, and I was able to do research in the medical center. A lot of my friends who are mechanical engineering, they also do research over at the medical center. So yeah.
Anyone have anything to add to that real quick?
There was a question about what the program was called. Someone didn't hear it.
It's called the Undergraduate Research Placement Program, URUPP. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. We have gotten a ton of different questions about various types of things with study abroad, either doing research while abroad, or how does going abroad for a semester potentially impact research that you're doing, or in the case of RIG potentially, how can you help use a RIG or a Discover grant to pay for your travel abroad? So does anyone want to speak to that?
I can speak about that. So I went abroad for a semester and it did not impact at all. It wasn't like I came back and I had less opportunities to do research. It is very common to hear students going abroad. So at U of R, around 32% of our students go abroad at some point during their college years. And I actually used part of my re-grant a couple of summers. In one summer, I went to Dominican Republic to do an internship, and I used that opportunity to actually do any further research that was necessary for the project I was working for. So definitely U of R gives you the opportunity to not just do research, you know, at a lab or like at an office or the library on campus, but you actually have the opportunity to explore other places, like if you have to do a field trip, if you ever just have this idea, you know, if you want to travel somewhere, it gives you the opportunity to go there instead of having restrictions and having a smaller window of what information you can include in your research. So definitely, if you want to go abroad and you need it for your research, there are plenty of opportunities for that.
I also went abroad last semester towards the end of my publishing window, and it was, in terms of talking to professors and talking to people I needed to, it was very easy. In fact, I was using Zoom far before any of this happened, so I feel like a pro. But yeah, it was super super helpful that they're so ready to reach out to you even if you've gone abroad.
For my program specifically, most people use their funding to go abroad and study. So like I mentioned before, my friend, he went to London for 10 days to study theater. My other friend, I don't know if this is still happening because of COVID, but she's studying atheist burials and she was planning on using her funding excuse me, to go to Korea. And for me, my research is specifically focused on apartheid and discrimination. And so I'm hoping to, over the summer of my junior year now, go to South Africa and study there. So it's definitely very easy to use that funding for whatever travel expenses that you have. And the Humanities Center is like really good about like reimbursements and things like that.
So what I'm going to talk about is not something I did because of the current situation. Unfortunately, it was cancelled, but there's something called Dadrise, and it's a research program during summer in Germany, and part of it is sponsored depending on need, and also on like just scholarship for students. So every year you get the chance to see the different research programs offered, and you get to apply to 3 of them, and then they will let you know first of all if you're accepted, but also if your program will be sponsored.
Awesome, great. So again, a bunch of other questions rolling in. Did anyone study abroad in Australia?
I did New Zealand, which
Okay.
Yeah.
Similar. I've had a lot of friends study abroad in both. It's really great to go somewhere where it's summer when it's winter here. But yeah, I would say there are not many countries, or at least countries with lots of universities that I can think of that students don't or can't study abroad in. I know we got a couple specific questions about that. I had wanted to turn around to talk a little bit about, without saying any specific names, what is the U of R research experience like as opposed to other universities? Now, granted, I went to and have worked my entire career at the U of R, and kind of all of us are in that same boat where our primary experience has been from the U of R. But beyond that, I did hear a lot from my peers who went to other universities, and I'm wondering if anyone can speak to kind of the differences that they've heard that other students have, without saying anywhere specifically, in that research experience, or maybe, at least when I think about it a lot, it's the prevalence of research. But I'll turn it over to you guys. It isn't my panel.
So I actually did research before I started college, so I had some exposure to it, and I was doing research at okay, so I was doing research at one of the Ivy Leagues, and I guess for me, my research experience was vastly different. And like I'll echo Kyle. It's just like the availability of research is also a huge factor that I think is definitely something that that differs from school to school. And because Rochester is people say that we're a research heavy school. They are correct, but I also want to say that the research isn't all just like all theoretical. We also get to do like practical applications of those works. The work that we do, a lot of people who do research get published. Oftentimes they come up with amazing products or solutions to problems, and they have like real world implications as well. So that's something that I think is very important. And also for me, and for me the difference was the fact that my professor here is in like the doctor that I work with at UR is very understanding of all of my situation. He understands that he understands I'm a student. He understands that I can't just I have other things to do, other priorities, not priorities, like other like engagements as well. And also the mentorship aspect is I feel like at least on UR campus is a lot higher. And something about Rochester though, a lot of people, and I feel like this ties into it well, a lot of students ask like, can they start research starting their freshman year? Absolutely. Professors in Rochester would like, they want to take you in during your freshman year, mentor you through that year, and then so that they can like have you for all 4 years. So that's how I feel like I would answer the question, like difference between our school and other universities.
Yeah, absolutely. I echo everything that Kimmy just said. I was accepted into the honors program at another research university, and where research was mandatory. And I think like part of the beauty of the research at the University of Rochester is that it isn't mandatory, it's voluntary. You have to like choose to do the research. So that means that people are more passionate about it, they're more engaged with it, and that it is an option. It's an option for you if you're out there, and clearly all of you are here because you're interested in doing research. But I like the flexibility that comes with it. I also like that with this program that I was accepted into at another university, I couldn't do research until like my junior or senior year. But there's so many first year specific programs like RIG and HRIG and Meliora Scholars that allow you to start your first year, like start right off the bat if this is something that you really want to do. And the professors are so open and passionate about what they're doing because they're all doing research. So if you take a class with someone and you just really like what their subject area is, you can just go to their office hours and talk to them about it. That's what I did with one of my psych professors, and I've taken like 3 of her classes now because I just really enjoy hearing her lecture, but also getting to go to her office hours and just talk with her about her research because it's like super engaging. So I think like the accessibility is a huge proponent here at U of R.
Anything else to add? Oh,
I would say, oh, Ara, do you want to go first?
You can go first. I'll
Okay.
follow you.
I would say while I was writing my book, I was doing a lot of interviews, and they were with professors from other schools as well, mainly business departments. And I would say from those schools, the professors were so bewildered that I was an undergraduate. And I was like, oh, yeah, we are a more of a research-oriented school. And they're like, oh, but I thought like you would definitely be graduates. And so I think that really resonated as something that was, wow, U of R's quite special in that way, that, you know, so many undergrads are doing research. That's just
Yeah, I think what Abby said is so true, that you don't have to do research if you don't want to. But I think that even if you don't know how to do research, the professors and the PhD students see so much potential in you that they are open if you want to get involved. So you don't have to be a professional in either a data analysis tool or, bibliography reviews. You learn. And I think having that opportunity and that I'm not being judged because I don't know something is that a welcoming environment that makes of Rochester not just a tier 1 great research institution, but also a a platform of unlimited opportunities. And this is like the last thing I want to share, but I think it's crazy to be just, doing whatever I'm doing. And then I receive a text from my friend back at home, back in Paraguay, and they're like, I read this magazine and I found that they publish or they talk about some research done at U of R. Or my parents will say the same thing, that it appears in the newspaper back at home, according to research done at the University of Rochester. And it's crazy because I'm walking in the dining hall and I, say hi to someone who I know that works at a lab of this professor. And then I remember a leadership class with Devin, and 3 years later, I see that he published a book. So I think there's this environment of this community that we celebrate each other's achievements. And I'm so proud. I'm so proud of being part of an institution where you see people being so humble and so smart and brilliant at the same time. And yeah, research gives you this opportunity to get tools that you take with yourself everywhere you go. You don't even notice. You're having a conversation with someone, or you're reading a book and you're already using all the procedures of understanding information, or if you're debating with someone, or if you're just, having a conversation with a friend. I think you take all those skills and the tools wherever you end up going and whatever you end up doing.
I also totally agree with this. You don't have to be an expert in something to apply to a professor's lab. It's more likely that you will apply saying that you're really interested in improving your skills in something through working in the lab. And also, let's not forget that everyone who now works in a lab started from somewhere. Everyone started from not having any experience. So you're definitely not the first one or the last one. So that's really not something to worry about. I remember when I got my first research experience, I didn't even have the minimum skills to join this lab. I didn't have, for example, any MATLAB knowledge. That was the main thing that I had to work with for my research, but I ended up learning so fast and so much that it actually helped me when I took the MATLAB class. So you can see it both ways. You can learn from your research and apply it to your schoolwork.
Awesome. Yeah, that actually answers kind of a question that got asked before, which was, basically what types of early training pre-lab procedures do you need? And the honest answer is that, while some professors and labs are looking for you to have some of that experience, there's a lot that are willing to take you in and train you from the get-go. Another quick question that I'm just going to answer is, do you have to have had a HRIG or a RIG in order to get involved with research your first year on campus? The answer is no. I love the chorus of shaking heads when I say that. Yeah, the next question that I kind of want to address is, I think we only got it from one person, but it's a really good one, I think. And that is, what is, not necessarily the major difference. I more think about how these two things complement each other, but research versus internships. This is something that I talk about frequently when I get asked about co-ops at the University of Rochester. We do have a few co-op programs, so by and large, students get that same type of experience by kind of dovetailing, if you will, their research experience with lots of times internships. So does anyone who's done both want to talk a little bit about how kind of the two have, melded together and how that's helped you?
Yeah, so I actually did an internship last summer, so that was summer from a senior year. So for me, it was actually helpful that because I was in a research lab, I learned a lot of coding skills, a lot of like programming skills in R, in Python, in MATLAB, and I was able to take those skills and apply them to my internship program. Because the reason I think so is because when I'm doing an internship, and I did it in an industry setting, so I worked as a business analyst. So obviously it was in an office and everyone was trying to get these results out, and it was very quick and all those things. So for me, it was very helpful that I had these skills that I learned from someone who like sat with me and taught me these different skills, guided me through the process, so I was able to apply those. Similarly, I learned a lot of like quantitative skills. So like I was able to like learn how to like meticulously read through data and get like the right results out of it, or like how to read it, like just like basic stuff, like how to read a certain data set in a certain way. And I was able to learn these things from my internship and bring those back to my research experience now that we're in the publication phase. So that was really helpful for me. So I think I got some skills from my research, applied them to my internship, got a lot of skills from my internship, and applied them to my research.
Yeah, I have taken, sorry. I have taken part in a co-op. One of my classes, the entire class is called Market Research. And they pair you with a company in Rochester. You meet with the company, see what they need. They actually give you a real problem that they're having, and you go out and do market research. And so it's not the research I had done, but it did give me a new perspective on different type of research. This was more like you do focus groups and things like that. And so it was cool to realize that, you know, the research I've done is this and this, but there's also this, even in the realm of business alone.
I have a little bit of a different experience, and I think it depends also what you want to do with your career. So for me, as a social science major, doing research was very different from what I was doing in my first internship, when I had to travel to the Dominican Republic and work there as a program assistant. But I think it complemented each other in the sense that I wanted to have research skills, but at the same time, I knew that for the career that I want to pursue in the future, I needed other skills as well, like communication skills, negotiating with people, and more. So definitely the internship that I had gave me the opportunity to develop more skills in that sense. But again, you can have an internship in other career fields that they actually go hand in hand with your research. So I really think it goes along with your major and your interest. But you will have, while in college, 3 summers. So you'll have a lot of opportunities to choose how you want to invest that time.
Is that everyone? All right. Let's see. We've kind of covered a lot of them. I'm looking back through now, though, to see if there's any that I kind of missed. Oh, here's one. Controversial question here. I have some strong opinions about it, but there's a question that says, people say the teaching is not as good at research institutions. Any comments? My general answer to that is that we are not necessarily in lockstep with a lot of other research institutions in both the way we treat our curriculum, the way we treat our students, and the way we treat our research. So I think that's where I'll stop my response, and I'll turn it over to you guys to answer kind of what your experiences have been with teachers and so on and so forth. So.
All right, I'll start. So I think because of Rochester's open curriculum, I was able to take classes in all the different academic fields. So I had a good array of professors that I took classes from. And I would say that is absolutely false, that teaching is not good at a research institute. If anything, I think at a research institution, professors are more aware of what they're teaching. So they're more aware of the material, and they're able to give us, in general, a better education is how I like to think about it, simply because they are not teaching us something that they don't know. So I'll just do a quick example. I took a biomaterials class, and the professor is someone who's very heavily involved with material research for medical devices. So she was able to give us a lot more in-depth discussion, and she was able to give us a really good I would like to say a really good understanding of how it would apply into the real world. And I think that is really something that I wanted to take away from my education. Another example would be a professor, amazing professor. She's a lawyer by profession, but she took a class on public health. And that was really interesting because oftentimes we talk about public health, and she was able to give me an insight of how policymaking plays out into the actual real world. So I think, if anything, no, teaching is, in my preference, teaching is better at a research institution.
Yeah, I fully agree with everything Kimmy just said. A lot of the classes that I've taken, some professors, the reading will be things that they have written and the works that they have published, because they're experts in their field and they know things. They know their areas very well. And also I think they're just very kind people. The professors that I've had, I don't know, they're like definitely like the kind of people that you can just go to their office hours and you can talk about their research, you can talk about the class, but you can also just talk about life too. Like many of my professors, and maybe this is because I'm definitely more geared to the humanities, but natural science people, you feel free to back me up if you want, but I just go and we talk about like how things have been going, and like we'll have a cup of tea and it's just a nice time. But yeah, I think they're very personable and they're like willing to like talk to you about all facets of life, research or not. So, and they're very, I think, well-spoken and knowledgeable individuals who like genuinely care about their students as well.
Yeah, in my experience, I was very lucky to have amazing professors, even in mechanical engineering. And I think the only difference, the fact that they do research makes, is that they're much more approachable. That's how I feel. Like they're more eager to talk to you and also try to get you to join their lab. So yeah, I think that's the only difference.
All right. Let's see. I'm seeing if there's any other questions. I think that maybe everyone's going to quickly share their email if they're okay with being contacted afterwards in the chat. So if there's someone who you really want to connect with afterwards, that's going to have some free time. It is coming up on finals period, so yes, we do still have finals even in the time of COVID-19. So yeah. So let's see. I feel like we've answered most of the questions here, and we're coming up on kind of the 5-minute mark. So yeah, is there anything that anyone else would like to add that they feel like is really important about the research experience here, or that you think that our attendees today should know? Yeah.
Just one thing really quickly. So there was a question about like, are students competitive with others and stuff like that? And I just want to say that no, they're not. Like, I think everyone, I think that's just Rochester, U of R in general, which is we're a very like, what do you call it, collaborative school. So a lot of the work we do is often with other students. But if you prefer to do an independent project, you're able to do so as well. So you have the option to choose.
Anyone else? Final thoughts? Or any other final questions? I would say we probably have a minute to. Yes, I just had a question about RIG. At this point, we have sent out. We may send out a couple more. There isn't an application process, but at this point, we've sent out basically 99% of our RIGs for this year. You're considered basically when your decision goes out of the office.
Oh, I want to add something, Kyle, if I can.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Even if you don't get to receive the RIG, even if you don't get to receive the Discover grant, we have a portal at U of R where you can apply for it's like an allowance or an award you receive once, and you can describe if it's for a conference, if it's for a research. I remember I wanted to present a paper at a conference that was of Latin American countries in Harvard, and they gave me a stipend that I could use to present this paper. So U of R has like so many opportunities. I cannot even highlight more that fact. So if you really think you want to do something like that, I think U of R is a great place to do it.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, just to emphasize what Ara said, like from personal experience, I don't have the RIG, but I do have 2 research opportunities already, and I got accepted to a 3rd one. So you really should not worry about that. Just email professors, reach out to them, and that's all you need to do.
Cool. I would say, yeah, not having a RIG is not going to be a barrier to you doing research. It's like, being a person finding being an employed person, maybe finding a $20 bill on the sidewalk walking by. It's like a great thing if you got it, but it's not necessary for you to live your normal life. The last one is like, I guess this is better articulated by, unfortunately, someone who's anonymous here, but kudos to whoever it was. It's just any general advice before we wrap up for incoming freshmen about research. If you could go back to talk to first year you, what would you say to either do differently or do the same that would have been just good advice to have?
Research is fun. It's not sitting in a lab and just like wearing a white coat. It's not what they show in the movies or the TV screens. Research can be daunting too, but it is fun. Don't be scared to try it. If you like it, you can continue on to it for 4 years. If not, you can say you tried it. So you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So definitely, yay research.
No, absolutely. I was definitely not a person who ever thought I would do research. It wasn't something, especially in my field of study as well. But it's accessible, it's out there, and like don't be afraid to cold email a professor. I know like that's like really scary to just like send emails to people that you don't know, but like do it. It's definitely worthwhile. And that's kind of how you get all these opportunities. It's just you have to put yourself out there, and that's can be intimidating and scary, especially like when you're a first year and you're new at a big institution. But like we have resources put in place to kind of help support you as you like want to try all these different things. So like it's definitely worthwhile.
I would say don't be afraid, don't be intimidated. Definitely put yourself out there. And this is from my first year me. Like if I could tell myself, this is something personal, but don't compare yourself to others. You're gonna hear a lot of people saying, yeah, I've done research before I came to college, or I'm doing research for this professor or this other professor. We all have different goals, so that means we all have different paths. So don't compare yourself to other people like you here that did your research, and invite yourself to an environment where you're gonna celebrate each other's achievements. And yeah, send those emails. If you go to conferences, save cards. Add them to LinkedIn. You never know. U of R is a great research institution, but that doesn't mean you end up doing just research at U of R. When you are from U of R, a lot of people have a good reference from you if you do research. So save those cards and apply them to your network, because research, I think, is an ongoing learning process.
Say two things. One, research does not have to be a solitary thing. There are so many, just your friends, your family, have them proofread something, ask their opinion on this. Does this read right? That it's so much more of a collaborative experience than you think at first. And then also, it might be a lot of writing. Think about how many papers you write in a semester alone. How many pages are there? Oh, probably like 50 if you put them all together. 50, I'll give you a hint, 50 Microsoft Word pages is 200 pages in a book. Like it's you can do it. You can extremely do it. And you just got to remember that.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much. And with that, I think we're gonna wrap it up. Thank you all for joining us today. We're gonna try and post this online so that hopefully you all can refer back to it if you have any other questions. But yeah, in the meantime, feel free to reach out to the admissions office if you have any further questions. If you really didn't get everything answered today, we will be having another research panel with a few of the same faces, a few different faces next Tuesday as well at 4:30. So in the meantime, everyone stay safe and have a great rest of your day.